little closer to me, not gonna let you fall. Nobody falls.
Okay.
There we go. My dad would say, if you fall off the table, you get unlimited care for life. I'm like, Dad, would you stop saying that? People are gonna throw themselves off the table.
Off the table.
Whoa! You hold your head, I got you. There you go. There you go.
I don't think I've ever had my neck adjusted like that.
You did great. No.
That was cool. Sometimes, and it's become more common now, when I get up in the mornings, like after I haven't moved for a long time, like I step with my left leg and I feel like it's gonna give.
Give, okay.
Yes. And then sometimes I hear it pop and I feel a relief because it also comes with pain.
When did that start?
It's been several years, but recently it's become more frequent.
Do you remember any injury or anything that started it, or
I
it sort of came on slowly, didn't really?
No, I did have an injury when I was about 12 years old. I was on a trampoline, like a bounce house.
Okay.
And it was very tall, and then it was like an obstacle course, and then when I was at the top, they had slides so I could slide down, but instead of sliding, I jumped.
Okay.
So I did like a Superman type of motion,
Yeah.
like hyperextension, and I felt something in my hip shift, and it was
Okay.
immediate pain in my left hip.
Got it.
So I've had that for a long time. And then after the incident, I had a lot of pain. I went to a chiropractor, but I didn't get better. And then I stopped going, and then eventually the pain subsided.
Do you notice that mostly in the morning? Do you see it go away throughout the day? Do you feel it happens only at certain times?
I would say mostly after I've been sitting for a long time,
Mm-hmm.
but it does happen throughout the day.
Okay. And you said it's your left hip you feel it happening?
Yes, it's always been the left hip.
So your right hip's a little high. What I'm seeing is this right hip's elevated, and the right hip will go up to alleviate nerve pressure. So what can happen is when we have an injury at a young age, the left side of your back got jammed from the fall,
right.
and now as a compensatory, your right hip is lifting up to try to alleviate nerve pressure.
Mm-hmm.
So the nerve controls not only the health of your acetabulum, the femoral acetabular joint, and all the muscles and ligaments that are surrounding the joint are kept
Yes.
healthy through the nerve. So it's similar to, for instance, if I have a cut on my arm and I put a tourniquet here,
Mm-hmm.
that cut would never heal, right? No matter how much
It's
we
blood.
pray for it, right? There's no
Yeah.
blood flow. Or if I have a cut on my arm and I don't have any good food, no materials, my body can't repair it.
Yes.
In the same way, the nerve from your lower back supplies the healing energy to your hip.
Mm-hmm.
And so what will happen is that instability can be, I'm going to examine it more in a second,
Yes.
but part of what I'm seeing so far is there can be nerve pressure that causes atrophy or weakness in the hip, which then makes it feel like it's just, doesn't feel like it's working properly.
Yes, that's how it feels.
And then the sitting, why it happens after sitting is because when you're sitting,
Mm-hmm.
the curve in your spine goes straight. So we're supposed to have this 45-degree lordosis. Have you heard that word before?
Yes, I've heard
Briefly.
lordosis, yes.
So the lordotic arch in your back prevents pressure on your lower back, or prevents excessive pressure, let's say, on the lower back.
Mhm.
And when we sit, especially if we're sitting rounded forward, that curve goes straight, or if anything, the opposite way. So it'll actually bend in a kyphotic curve instead of it being in a lordotic arch position. And that puts a lot of discal pressure, which then leads to, you might be fine when you're sitting, but when you go to try to get up, it's like, oh, something doesn't feel right in the hip
Right.
when you're trying to come up. And that happens because when you're standing, the hole the nerve goes through gets smaller, and then you're hitting that nerve, and that causes the signal from the brain to the hip not to work properly. Well, Ed, I told you it's my hip, it's not my neck. My neck's not bothering me. Stop talking about my neck.
My neck bothers me sometimes.
Okay. So the head being forward is an avoidance posture. And so at your age, you might not have a lot, and even if you do, it might be minimal, but my point is that you're in avoidance, and the more forward the head goes, the tighter your middle back becomes. So I want you to feel for a second. Give me your hand.
Yes.
It's supposed to be soft. I know.
Wow.
Gummy back.
Your back is soft.
It's supposed to be, well, I'm going to adjust this my whole life. My point is that it's supposed to be flexible. Now watch what happens when I
Yeah.
bend forward. Feel. Do you feel I get tight?
Yes, I
But
did feel that.
Because the tightness here is postural. If I don't tighten that, I fall over.
Yes.
Right? There's tension in your middle back, and I go right because the head's forward.
Yeah.
And if you you can rub this forever and ever. You can stretch this forever and ever. Right?
Right.
If the head stays forward, it's silly.
Yeah.
You have to get the head back. In order to do that, we have to unlock the spine like clay. You have to make the spine flexible.
Mhm.
And why are we talking about the middle back? The middle back getting tight, then when I bend, do you see if my middle back's all tight, where am I bending?
At
the small and lower back.
Mm-hmm.
And so this area then becomes overexerted and overstressed. Do you feel it going down the leg at all? Do you feel anything in your foot, any numbness, any tingling ever?
Sometimes I do, yes.
On the left leg?
On the left leg, yes. On
Ever?
the right too.
And the right too?
Yes.
How often, and is that worse in the morning also?
Yes, I would say so. Mm-hmm.
So at the young age, you're right, and even at my age too, I'm not as young as you, but my point is, before 50 really, our discs are made of a lot of water, and as we age, perhaps, it's not healthy that they do, but they dry up, they desiccate, and maybe this model might show it a little bit, but it's not a normal thing or a good thing, but the discs are supposed to be kind of spongy and soft, and there's a nucleus, and then there's these layers that wrap it, and what I mean by desiccated is it becomes like bacon.
Yeah.
It becomes more dried up. And so when we're older, things get worse slowly, things get better slowly. When we're younger, the disc can bulge out, hit the nerve, you feel terrible, and then it can retract quickly. So changes can actually happen faster at a younger age, but the point is that when there's nerve pressure or the disc hitting this nerve root or the spinal cord, you're going to get weakness or just odd symptoms. Ed, my hip's clicking, it doesn't feel like it's stable,
Right.
and people might say, well, Ed, you're just treating her back. Correct, because this being tight, her head being forward is the reason why you're feeling, does that make sense, hip problems, and you're in avoidance. Your body's, and then this gets really silly really quick because one chiropractor might say, your hip's high, does that make sense? Let's take your hip and push it back down.
Yeah.
Or they put a heel lift in that shoe. They give you foot leveler, give you shoe orthotics.
Right.
I don't subscribe to this mentality because your body intelligently and purposefully raised that hip to alleviate nerve pressure. So how are you going to level out my hips? You said my right hip's a ½ inch high. How are we going to level that out? We have to get rid of the reason for why it happened. The reason why it happened is the middle back is tight, the lower back's overstressed, your body shifts. Taking the stress off your lower back by moving it to your middle back into the hip joints.
Yes.
So when I adjust you in a second on the side, we're trying to adjust the sacroiliac joint. You grab your butt, right? Because we're trying to, I'm not adjusting the lower back. Many times you might watch a YouTube video and they're actually purposely adjusting this bone.
Okay.
So when you injure a joint, the body will try to shift the joint into a more comfortable position. That movement is a good thing. It's a body trying to alleviate. It's like having a hot potato in your hand and moving it around.
Right.
Stop moving the hot potato. Well, my hands are burning,
Yes.
right? So the body purposefully shifts things, and then I believe an archaic way of looking at it would be to try to unshift that. You're saying the way we're going to unshift it is by getting rid of the reason for why it's happening. Once the hot potato is not hot, I don't need to shift it around anymore.
Yes.
That's the
That makes
problem,
sense.
is the hot potato in the first place. So de-inflaming the lower back, and then the long-term care is reminding your spine to be curved. And long-term, we have to, the word lordosis is going to come out your ear by the time you're done with me. It's like, I swear he said lordosis a little too much. Because if you had a lordosis, that isn't possible. Ringing in the ears, how often?
Maybe once a week or so.
How long has that been going on?
Long time. Years.
Do you ever have ear infections? Do you have
No, I actually don't.
jaw pain?
I do. It clicks nonstop 24/7 for as long as I can remember.
Okay.
Yes.
That's tied with the head being forward. So the more forward your head goes, this jaw joint gets jammed, and then it can grind every time you open and shut it because the two joints are mashed together and they click because they're pressed up against each other.
Yeah.
So you're just treating her neck, right? Because if I get her head back, that's going to alleviate the jaw clicking. The clicking is a symptom of, unless you've been, unless you're an MMA fighter and, I did 10 years at Octagon and, my jaw got pretty punched around.
No.
It's, if you have no trauma to give me a reason, then it's postural.
Okay.
Okay. I've never been accused of not talking enough. I usually say if you would like a quiet visit, it costs double. You get this discounted if you let me talk. We go cross this arm over. All right, take one deep breath in. Let the head go back. Exhale. I got you. Real gentle. Let it go. Beautiful. Deep breath in. I know. There you go. Exhale. One more. All right, good. Very good. All right?
Yes.
Yeah. You did great. So, as I feel. So the purpose of this adjustment, what are you doing, man? We're trying to loosen the sacroiliac joint. There's a big 4-inch long joint right here.
Okay.
That joint, I've never heard of SI joint surgery. Somebody on YouTube will go, well, I have one right here, Ed. I'm sure it exists. I'm not doubting that somebody's fractured or been stabbed or shot and broken that joint in a way that it has to have a rod placed into it. But I'm talking about life in arthritis. And just living a normal life and then that joint falling apart. I've never seen that. What I've seen frequently is this joint being stiff, this joint being stiff, and this one being overstressed. And then the myriad of consequences of that happening. I love your tattoo, by the way. You can grab what you want.
Thank you.
Love it. Hands in your belly. There we go. All right. A little closer to me. Not going to let you fall. Nobody falls.
Okay.
There we go. My dad would say, if you fall off the table, you get unlimited care for life. I'm like, Dad, would you stop saying that? People are going to throw themselves off the table.
Off the table.
Whoa! All right, deep breath in for me. I got you. Exhale. Beautiful. Other side for me. You go. Other side for me. And have you exhale and rotate. All right, one time. Exhale. A little tight on this side. Yeah. Exhale. There we go. Good. Face up for me. I got you. Yeah, you did great. You need to see it in there. The knot on the right side of her head is causing even the right side of her face to be swollen. The right, really, Ed? One side of your face is actually a little more swollen because there's actually a big knot here on the right. This knot causes the drainage of the right side of your face to be poor.
Oh.
Can you feel this knot right here on the right?
I do, yes.
And then the left side, it's not as knotted.
Yeah,
and
that's true.
so the lymphatics are the sewer pipes that drain your sinuses, your frontal, the maxillary. And so what will happen is, and they don't cross. If you look up lymphatic drainage, the left and right, so what will happen is you'll have like, I've had patients, not talking about you, but patients will have pimples on one side of their face, and then it'll stop right at the midline because
Okay.
the two sides of your face are actually two completely separate systems for, I don't know, hookups, let's call it. One city, one's county, and they're completely separate drainages. All right, real gentle. So the goal is to not try to move every bone in your neck. I'm not trying to pop every joint. We're trying to loosen your upper neck, take some stress off your lower neck. Real gentle. I got you. There you go. Let me hold your head. I got you. There you go. There you go. You did great.
I don't think I've ever had my neck adjusted like that.
You did great. No.
That was cool.
I got your head. There you go. Let it go. There you go. You did great. You did great. Like this right here is not supposed to be here. This.
Oh.
Yeah. Are you sure, Ed? Yeah. No, we can't. I can't coexist with this lump right here.
Oh.
Now what happens is, Ed, I didn't notice it was there, and that's because your head was forward. Right? When the first thing I saw when you were standing was your head was about an inch forward.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's like if you have injured your right ankle and then you shift your weight to your left ankle to get away from it, right?
Yeah.
You maybe forget that your right ankle's injured because you're avoiding it. And you go, no, my right ankle's fine, Ed. Well, then why are you avoiding it? Right? You seem to be leaning away from it. So your neck has gone, you're supposed to be here kind of idea. You've gone to here.
Mm-hmm.
It's subtle, but your neck has flexed. The chin is tucked to avoid the joints in your spine that have a lot of feeling. Why do we want the weight on the joints? Ed, they have a lot of feeling. Why do we want that? Because the disc has no feeling, and that defines every surgery. And the more we live rounded forward and our heads forward, not only does it cause what you're coming in here for,
Yes.
but it leads to, Ed, my hands are feeling weak. I'm dropping things. My fingers are my burning arm symptoms.
Yeah.
And we live in a world that just waits till it happens and then reacts to it instead of like, I don't know, looking at your alignment and saying, look, this is, my orthodontist did that to me when I was 12, 13 years old. He said, this alignment's incorrect. You will have these problems at 30 if we don't correct them now. And I spent 2 years with braces. And right, so we've been told this with our teeth. We've been educated about this with our cars.
Yeah.
I went to the gym and I worked out my arms, and my arms are sore the next day, right? They give you you're real connected with muscles. Ligaments, if you sprain an ankle, you feel it in the ankle, right? If you, even joints, they talk to you. If I punch a wall, my knuckles hurt, right? But with nerves, it's sneaky. They're not like muscles, joints, ligaments. Nerves are like, I think of Brutus with Caesar. You know, Brutus Caesar thought was his best friend until he was getting stabbed in the back. Et tu, Brute? You too, Brutus, right? So it's a little sneaky. You don't get a real clear, he's that passive-aggressive person that's going to smile at you right as they go for him for the kill. So, Andrew kicked me out a little bit. I'm just saying, that's what nerves are. They're not going to give you that clear information. They're vague. A lower neck nerve pinch will cause shoulder problems. It's like, well, no, my shoulder's the problem. Well, it's actually a spinal problem that's causing less talking head, less talking, less yakking, more cracking. There we go. All right, so this is the home position. This is where your neck belongs. If that makes sense.
Yeah.
This is where your neck will last till 100. We know where the spine needs to be. The adjustment is a tool to make the clay soft so that we can press your spine into that position. And even as I'm talking to you, why aren't you looking at me? Because my neck will kill me, right? If I look down all day long, right?
Yes.
Right? I used to, my first year of my practice, I used to look down because, to connect with people. Where are you staring off into, Ed?
Your neck would hurt.
Right, where are
really
you
bad.
looking? I can't look at you.
People ask that all the time, is he blind?
I just stare off into space. Because I can't just look down at you all day long.
Yeah.
And by the end of the day, I'll have headaches. I've trained myself to just keep my head over my shoulders because your posture is a distillation of where you are through the most time. We'll check out the hip in a second. There can be attachments that are inflamed in there. I wouldn't be surprised if things are torn up in the hip socket itself, and we'll examine that in a second. But all of it's under the predication of relieving nerve pressure. This is not a minimal misalignment up here. From left to right, this is all popped up. Oh, I have to be a little quiet here. Here we go. Right there. Can you feel that right there?
Yes.
Yeah, I'm sure. Probably haven't really felt that before, right? Didn't really notice that was up here. So the areas that are stiff, you don't connect with because the sensors talk to your brain based on mobility. So when an area is stiff, you don't notice it's stiff because there's no output from the stiff area. So the curve that you were supposed to have down here has gone the opposite way up here. This is becoming rounded up here, especially on the left side, and that's going to overstress your lower back. There we go. Yeah, and I like when you're up the right side of my back. Feels great, The left side, not so much, but.
I can definitely feel the difference.
Mm-hmm.
Like holding my breath.
No, let it go. That's the diaphragm attachment. Let it go. Breathe through it. Yep, don't hold the breath. That's where your diaphragm attaches, so it's going to feel a little, almost something a little. I can't breathe, Ed. I know. I'm pushing right on the attachment, but we gotta learn to unbind this area. It's starting to level out. Yeah, we're getting it. Right there. This is all the ribs are down over here. Feel the difference? All the ribs are down, and then the washboard.
That's crazy.
Right there. Yep. It's okay. I wake up. I look at backs. I go to bed in the morning. I wake up and look at backs again. Start seeing patterns. But we want to level that out. Essentially, because this is crooked, it causes a wobble in the lower back, which then affects your hip. So. And this ultimately is a domino from the neck. I know, it's all my neck, Ed. I got it. Okay.
Ooh, so tender.
No, not the shoulders. Are you tickling her head or just?
No, it's just tender.
I didn't even know that was here, did you? Yeah, I didn't even know it was so tender until you touched it. Ultimately, the bones aren't where they're supposed to be, so the bones are rubbing over the cables that are over top of them. sandwiched between my elbow and the bone. This is where she was. This is the top part of that. You can see if you watch the comb. That's the washboard. Now if you watch this side, there's some here, but a little smoother on the right, and then these are like. But it's leveled out quite a bit.
So it's like more kyphotic on the.
You're leaning to the right, essentially, yeah.
Okay.
And which is raises up the ribs on the left.
Mm-hmm.
Nerves that go out and go to the hips. So we're just cleaning out the area where the nerves exit the spinal column. Right there. Yeah. Okay. Feel that right there, right? You feel that internal, right, tension,
Yes.
acidity. It comes up real quick. So how quickly the marks come up tells me how much is in there. Sometimes if you have to comb a lot to get it, it's it's less internal. But if it comes out real quick, it's like running a vacuum cleaner in that first pass. Jeez, how much sand was in the carpet? There you go. Yeah, just do that forever, Ed. Yeah, just like this is my favorite part. People tell me this is my favorite part of the visit right here, Ed. Everything else I could do without. Pretty tender?
Yes,
Yeah.
very.
Yeah. I didn't even know that was tender, Ed. If this wasn't tender, I'd really be confused. This is what I mean by nerve pressure. This is where the nerve has to travel through here to get to your hip. And
Mhm.
if you actually had an attachment pulled or you would not be putting up with this. There's bursitis here, but what I feel the most tenderness is right here.
Yes.
This is the neurological. Right there. All right, let's get this. Right, more up here, right?
Mhm.
Yeah, this is right here. So there's tightness here that doesn't belong here, and no, what are you doing? I've had different patients that are like, tough like MMA fighter type guys, and they're like, man, I thought I was gonna pass out there, and I was ready to tap. So you're doing really well. Yeah, but this is an intense area. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Let it go. Breathe. Here we go. All right. Here we go. So lift your legs up. You okay?
Mhm.
Go real gentle. Here we go. Good. Just trying to loosen your middle back a little bit more. All right. Deep breath in. Here we go. All right. Good, good. I know. Oh, boy. Never do that again, Ed. You did great. You did great. Let me have you on your back for me.
Okay.
If you had to put one finger where you feel the most, where would be the most if you had to point to the area that you feel in mostly? Kind of an area.
But like right here.
Yeah, the backside. Yeah, your hip socket is right, here.
Yes.
And she's pointing. This is referral pain from the nerve. So the nerve in the lower back gives you, it feels like hip, but it's really the glute, the neurological area in the back.
Well, you have a lot of nice little tattoos.
Sarasota.
Oh. Okay, all right. All right, I'm just checking. Here we go, I got you. Mm-hmm. Okay, it's okay.
Oh, my ankle popped.
Okay, meet again. Hey, come on.
That was quick. That one popped.
Just checking. Okay, just checking. I got your leg. I got it. There we go. Okay. I'm gonna have you press backwards with your elbow into my.
Okay.
Here we go. Good. Yeah. Super. There we go. Good check. Sometimes we can get some shoulders to pop. Lift your chin up for me. Let your chin go up. Then press back with your elbow. There, a little bit.
Yeah.
There we go. I got you. All right. Go ahead and tilt your head to the left a little bit for me. That's right. What harder than that? There we go. Go ahead and tilt your head to the left for me. Okay. Not be that hard. There we go. Okay, go ahead and tilt your head to the right for me.
Ooh.
A little bit. Tilt your head to the right for me. Okay. A little bit there. All right, come on. If you're able to do this easily, you won't need to be here. You shouldn't even be here. That pain isn't possible if this is easy. Because this being easy means that your back wants to be curved all the time. If there's no difference between what the mold is asking and where you want to be,
Yeah.
but if your back wants to be straight and the mold presses on you, then what happens is I can't do it, Ed. My back won't sink into the stretch.
Mm-hmm.
And eventually it just becomes a joke because your back is arched all the time. And what that arch means is that not all the stress is going to be on the lower back, and then that shifting that we're seeing is not going to be happening. So at the beginning, so you don't get too angry at me, I put a book behind the head to reduce the depth, and we'll see how you go with that.
Mm-hmm.
You'll have the knees bent, and I'm going to ask you to try to bring your knees to the side and rotate.
Okay.
And we're just trying to see how much you can handle. But we're trying to mechanically make this area do more, taking stress off your lower back. The lower back being agitated causes that referral pain, that hip pain.
Mm-hmm.
So we're going to move the stress off your lower back. The best home treatment would actually be to use ice on your lower back. So
Okay.
worst thing you could do would be a hot shower for a prolonged period of time on your lower back. I mean, you can take a hot shower, but just don't be standing there with your back towards the shower head, getting heat all over your lower back. It will swell the tissue, causing the disc if you've been doing that.
I do that a lot.
Do that a lot.
Every day.
And that's right. So to be clear, please take a hot shower, but just don't be sitting there round and forward.
I do because I'm like, it might relieve the pain.
Heat blocks the animal, but what happens is because you're so young, the heat swells the disc and
Okay.
inflames the joints. So then that hits the nerve, and then you feel great after you get out of the shower. And then a half hour later, you're like, oh, it's still there because the heat actually inflames the tissue. So we want to stand with the water hitting the side, either front of you. Just don't be standing there. I mean, briefly,
Yeah.
but don't be standing there
Okay.
for 10 minutes.
I literally have stood there for 10 minutes.
Here we go. I got you. Yep. Here we go. 1 second. Okay. Well, let me explain you. Make it a little easier for you. There we go. Bring your arms up for me if you can. Keep the knees bent.
Oh, bent.
Yeah, keep
Right.
bent.
Oh, that's
know,
hard.
That's not fun.
No, not at all.
Yep. I know. I made it look so easy.
You did.
I did. That's not fair, Ed. I know. I'm a chiro kid, right? Let's try bring your knees aside. Breathe. Come on. I know. Oh boy.
I can barely do it. Wow.
So everything I do on that table, do you understand, is to make this too much?
Yeah.
Too
Actually, I think
much?
that's as far as I can go.
Lift up for me.
Go ahead and lift your head.
There we go. All right. Do you understand? So these are crutches that I use to help attenuate and get you used to being arched.
Mm-hmm.
Your back is ortho. If it was lordotic, this would be a joke. Ed, it is not a joke. This is kicking my butt.
Yes, it is.
The back being straight is why you're here. The loss of that natural lumbar curve
Mhm.
creates a ladder effect whereby your lower back, which is your hips, the lower back and your hips are the same thing, just like the lower neck and the arm
Mhm.
is the same thing. So pick a side that's less difficult. I'm going to have you roll off. So I'm going to have you
Okay.
pick a
I'll
side.
do this side.
All right.
Okay.
Just try to roll. Keep going. I got you. I know. Roll back onto your back.
Okay.
Lay back on your back. Lay back on your back.
Oh, on the back.
Just
Okay.
lay down. Just give it. Stay here for a few minutes.
Okay.
If it was easy, I wouldn't have a job. If it was easy to change someone's posture, then everybody be doing it. There'd be a device at Walmart that could guide us.
Yeah.
It requires soft tissue work, gua sha, massage adjustments to free up the spine.
Mhm.
You can't tune a piano if the keys don't move. You have to first fix the piano,
Right.
then we can talk about tuning it. You probably don't spend much time here, right?
I don't because it bothers my back.
How does it feel right now?
It's okay.
Yeah, what'll happen is, I don't want you doing this if it's pinching your lower back, but do you understand it's pinching because your lower back's doing all the bending?
Yeah.
Because your middle back is tight, when you cobra pose, you're bending like just
Yeah.
at one spot. And so we call that hyperextension. You're causing a hyperextension. This is why a lot of therapists and chiropractors tell people to not do this because you're going to pinch things, and that's true.
Yeah.
But we should unlock the spine so that that curve can, get back into into your spine. If it's too much, it feels like pinching, come down. Don't go so high. You just don't arch up so high.
Yeah.
But when I'm, watching my phone or something like that, you just lay on your belly. You don't spend all your time, and then over time, put pillows underneath your chest. And if you have your weight on your shoulders, it'll start hurting your shoulders. So you'll need the weight onto your chest. Anytime you're in a position for more than 20 minutes, your posture's changing. So 25 minutes in the car, when you get out of the car, your back
Oh yeah.
it retains some of that forward bending. And that's, every time you do that, collectively, it adds up to this debt that you've accrued. So I'd like you to try to, I'm going to give you a smaller version of this if I have one. I have a smaller version. We'll see if we can start. Or if you have a foam roller at all?
I do have one out.
The foam roller can be used.
That I never use.
Yeah, you should. Well, that's good. You shouldn't be using it because it's meant to be used with care.
Yeah.
So if you're not having care, I wouldn't advise people to just wing it and start.
Yeah.
They're meant to be, guided through the process of using it.